off-season series here presented by TYSN, brought to you by Football Ontario. Episode 2, we're breaking down the OSFL U18 AAA West. Very special guest joining me here today, Adam Melrose from London Football TV, from the London Jr Mustangs. Adam, how's it going? How did the season treat you? And how are you without football here now?
You know what? It's good. I think we had obviously it's nice to win the thing, last year, but it was just one of those. I've been with the Junior Mustangs for a good long time in many different capacities, from position coach to head coach, and it's always nice to get that big W, and a nice little trip to Waterloo, and obviously the season was done, and then it was just like bam, high school right away, which I'm pretty heavily involved in here as well too, with a variety of different things, and streaming and coaching, and I literally actually coach a junior team at the high school I help out at, so that I can be more involved when the senior games are on, right, and go and film and things like that. So yeah, it's a lot. And then obviously, you get into actual NFL, and then all of a sudden it's over. And I know we were just chatting to pre hit record button about, like, oh, you get this nice little lull for a second, and then man, are we back into it, so
Ready to go, yeah.
it's been good. Yeah, I've stayed very busy, and just prepping up for what the spring season looks like this year as well, and the future past that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, everyone, if you haven't already, make sure you go hit subscribe on London Football TV's YouTube channel. Follow them on Instagram. A lot of great stuff, especially in the London area that Adam does, covering all the great football down there. One of our football juggernauts that we're going to get to here in just a quick second. But let's recap this the 2024 season real quickly before we dive into 2025 and kind of set the stage there. Obviously, this division is no joke, year in, year out, especially at this varsity division. It is a gauntlet, man. It's a gauntlet, and this year we've seen 3 different winners from this West Division in the last 3 seasons, and this year it was a purple rain. The London Junior Mustangs get it done and get the victory. Adam, from your purview, obviously, London gets over the hump. Their second U18 provincial championship appearance in 3 years, first win in 3 years. Overall, maybe you could speak to London or just the division at a glance, but how'd you see the 2024 season? Always so competitive, and London getting the big victory.
Yeah, you know what? The West this year was a powerhouse, right? Like, it was, especially in the top 4 positions. It was every week you couldn't take your foot off the gas for a second, because and I think here's the other thing too. Even you look at the last couple of years, the sheer amount of really good film that's available now. I mean, we have to share it anyways, due to OSFL rules, but just really good film makes for amazing football games. And I think the West last year, we'd be prepping, we'd do film a couple nights a week, going in every single game and just breaking down packages and things like that. And it was one heck of a season this year. And in years past, you're like, okay, these teams have those 4 good players, and this team has those 5. No. This year it was 12 on each side. Like, the starters were dogs on every single team. So great news for Football Ontario in the grand scheme of things, because all of that's just going to translate into OUA once upon down the road. Yeah, killer summer season, and I thought it was really cool, with the culmination being at Waterloo there, and you got to blow your voice out on a bunch of broadcasts there too, a pain I know all too well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about it sort of. I forget the name of the cast we were on. Kind of in the middle of last season, but we talked about the 3-headed dragon that is, the top 3 teams in this West Division, and foreshadowing. I think we're going to see that again. But it's been an exciting season, and there's a few change-ups in the West this year too, right? But
Absolutely.
yeah, I think all in all, we even we had a lot of pretty close games too. Like the Burlington game in 24 was one of those that maybe we shouldn't have won. But that was a good squad. But I'll take the W. A win's a win. But it was pretty interesting, and a lot of nice close games, especially at the Stangs side of things for sure. So yeah, I know the whole coaching staff of Junior Mustangs that I've caught up with have been really happy about last year, and are pretty pumped for 25.
For sure, yeah, and you mentioned briefly there the 3-headed beast, 3-headed monster in London, Essex, and Hamilton. Obviously, just another great season, and I'm going to rattle off kind of the records of all of these teams before we break into it to kind of give our synopsis on 2024. Obviously, the Junior Mustangs finished with a 7-1 regular season record, go on to win the provincial championship. They avenged their loss to Essex earlier in the regular season and beat them in the semifinals to make the finals, and they take care of business against Durham. Looking at Essex, they finished with the 6-2 regular season record. Hamilton 7-1. So you look at those three teams, there's not much budge going on with them. And then you go on to the kind of that middling tier with some great organizations there too. Cambridge finished 4-4, Burlington finished 4-4, Niagara finished 2-6, but I would say played some really tough games against some tough opponents, and they're always a tough out no matter what. Oakville had a bit of a down year, finishing at 1-7. And then you look at the Junior Warriors, who we'll get into a little bit more later. They finished 6-2 in the AA last season, but they do make the jump to AAA this season. So a lot of action to unfold here. And, Adam, from your purview, do you think the three-headed monster maintains their reign this season in 2025? And if they don't, what team do you think maybe makes that jump up and can kind of battle with those three teams?
Yeah, interesting question. I haven't really had a good chance to catch up with my good buddy Glenn Mills in a while, but it's always a guarantee that they are going to find a squad of athletes in Windsor. It's I know they get a few guys that come over from the States that are going to be going to Windsor U, and you know what you're getting from that team every time. And then the same can be said about Hamilton. And I think the top three dogs from last year are in good place, but they haven't had a chance to catch up with to know exact names of the players that are coming out yet. I know that I think you had a survey that we got some information from these guys. You know what? I just talked about Burlington, and I thought Burlington was actually a really good team. And I know that they have a few kids coming up from their U16 level that are really good. And I think if anybody's going to make, maybe a run this season at making it into that top three, I think Burlington's the team. I want to say Cambridge, but I've just I know the Cambridge guys really well. A lot of those coaches for a good long time. I've been coaching against those since my kid was 7, so like a good long time. And I haven't seen it the last couple seasons out of Cambridge. And I think if I had to pick the the quote unquote sleeper pick here, I think Burlington is the one that could potentially make a run this year. And they were very impressive anytime I saw them last year in film or even when we played them. So it could be interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, Adam, and I think that's the consensus as well. I think, they're back-to-back U16 provincial champions, and a lot of those kids are making the jump up to U18. I'd say that's one of the bigger jumps you have to make in the OSFL is moving from U16 to U18, because you're battling young men whenever you're going up to that varsity division. A lot of these guys are playing football at the next level already, right? So it is a big jump. If there is a team to do it, though, I think you're right. It might be those Stamps.
Yeah. And here's the thing: it's a jump, but what you've also got is you've got a jump of kids who've been there, right? And if you can, if you've been there at that top game mentality, sure, it's JV or U16. But if you can already have those kids who've been able to train and get to that level and succeed at that level, man, what a great place to start when you get them into U18, because they've been there, done that. You might have a few egos to, keep in check when they come in year one, but that's football in general, right? But I think that's why I think they're in a good place here. And, you've just got, it's no different than here in London. That 06 group, won it back in, U14, a bunch, whatever the league was called at the time, and then have moved forward. And it's that group, won it with Coach Snyder at the U16 level, and then won it last year. Like the bulk of the team that won with Snides was the bulk of the team that won last year with Greg. So I think you just get these little dynasty teams that kind of come through. And I think, that's exactly what I think Burlington will do very well over the next 2 years, because they've got that. If they can keep that core group from U16 and not, hopefully, fingers crossed, no injuries or anything, is that's what keeps them rolling, is that crew that's got that, championship mentality already because they've been there.
Yeah, and even the U18 Stamps, even without the U16 talent, they've been no slouch at the varsity division. They've made the playoffs. They've done some good things. You mentioned the tough game that London had against them last season. And I think that championship pedigree from U16, I think that rolls over a little bit. I think that's a real thing. You've been there, you've done that. So a little bit more on Burlington later. First team I want to touch on has to be the London Jr Mustangs, Adam. What a season! Finally, like getting over that hump. And winning that provincial championship after watching rivals Essex and Hamilton win it back to back, at these age groups the last 2 seasons. Obviously you're close with them. You were their defensive line coach, I believe, right, Adam? So, what was the feeling coming out of that? Was it just overall joy? Was it relief? Was it just like we got the monkey off our back? I mean, that's one of the most talented football teams I've ever seen. So, what was the feeling coming out of camp there?
Yeah, it was, you know, a great way to end the season. Obviously, like a lot of work, and I think people don't. I think some people think, maybe other sports think that we just show up and play on game days and don't
Yeah.
realize it's the 6 days of prep, that leads up to it. And yeah, you're right. I was actually one of three defensive line coaches. And Coach Matt Palawato was sort of the lead on D line. He's also a coach at Western, so I think it's there's a great mentality and a great culture of football, obviously, because we've got all the resources and connections to the university. I also believe that speaks true to Essex, that speaks true to Hamilton as well too, right? And so coming out of camp, or even we're in winter camp right now, and it's really exciting. And man, it was Coach Greg Wilson too has been to the show before, and it was we tough loss to Essex the year before, right? So
Yeah.
nice to get back there, nice to have that big W, and then just build towards it. But yeah, it was again the right core group of kids, a great coaching staff, and everybody just singing from the same song sheet from the beginning of the season all the way to the end. And it was one of those, that champ game was, was a beautiful day, and it felt like it. You got there, and once we started rolling in the first quarter, I'm just like, we got this. And I'm
Oh
not going to
yeah.
get complacent. Like, we still got to win this game. But there was just there not a shred of negativity on the sideline. Everybody's just in it, and it was time to win it. No, it was good, and a good chunk of those kids coming back here for 25 too.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to mention, obviously a huge win for London and the community, and you know, one of the best football programs, not only in Ontario but in Canada, up there in London. You guys just, you strive for greatness, whether it's high school or provincial ball. But I really wanted to mention like this defense, man. I mean, they were just incredible. The best defense in the entire league, only giving up 56 points in 8 regular season games. What's your takeaway from them being on the defensive coaching staff? I'm sure you guys are losing some talent there, but it seems like you're always able to easily regroup and retool. What's the culture of that defense specifically, and do you see them being as dominant in 2020?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Coach Haldenby, it's kind of funny if you've never met Coach Haldenby, he's one of the most soft-spoken, gentle people you'll ever meet in your life. And he does get a little uppity every once in a while, but for like 99% of the time, you would think like this guy's not a defensive coach. Like there's no way. And he's able to just corral these kids and install these beautiful packages. And then I think at each position level, we've got two or three coaches and a lot of university coaches there too. And I think the one thing I really like is you've got the quote unquote adult or dad coaches that are there. I mean, everybody's vetted through the head coach, but then we usually have at least one university guy at each level too, or somebody who's committed to Western, or somebody who's a year two or year three guy at Western. And the high school players, or the actual players, just take to those university players because they're at that next level where they want to be. And the university coaches usually do a really, really good job of teaching them that swagger, or that just panache that they need at that position. So I think you've got a really good installed program from Coach Haldenby, and then all the right parts underneath. Like, I wouldn't say there's with some teams. I was talking to a team recently, and they're like, "Man, we haven't had a good DB coach in forever." Which that's one of the hardest spots to fill too. I found is good DB coach is worth their weight in gold. But I think at the defensive level, very similar system. We'll run it again this year, and have been able to really just pluck from the high schools here. I mean, there's a lot of high schools in London, so and I mean, just the high school season alone was insane this year. So now it's like, great. Well, let's just take the dogs from each of those teams and bring them in. And we've got guys like Weston Gower, who's going to be coming back and playing D-line for us this year. Owen Jollymore could be one of our, U19 guys, or the 10 that you're allowed on the team, who's also a Western commit this year too. we could definitely rebuild the D line. And I think the success of our defense last year had to be that, in that champ game, we had just, it was a 30 front, like we were rushing three.
Three-man rush
Yeah.
and just getting home. Yeah.
And getting it done, right?
Yeah.
And really just that opens up so much more in the backfield to do what we need to do, and to send linebackers and things like that. So I think I'm pretty excited. I've been traveling for work a little bit the last couple of weeks, but the Friday camps I've been able to make it to have looked really nice in the lineman room for sure. So I think the goal for 25 again is just keep up the pressure, keep up the defensive play that we've seen in the past, and like you said, we'll find the tools in the toolbox for sure to get it done.
Yeah, and as I mentioned a little bit before, obviously that was the second U18 provincial championship appearance for the Junior Mustangs at this age group in the last 3 years. Actually winning the Tier 2 championship the season prior, so really 3 championship games in three seasons. And a little tidbit, this is, if London can repeat this year, they'd be the first team in the OSFL era to repeat at this age group as provincial championship. So there's a lot of weight on the shoulders of that, because Essex couldn't do it, Hamilton couldn't do it. Let's see if London can do it at the provincial stage. It's going to be very interesting to see.
Looking forward to seeing it, man. Like, if we could fast forward, I'd love to get there right now, right? But a long road ahead of us for sure.
For sure. And then maybe, Adam, to wrap it up, I know you mentioned a couple of names there, but you're very close to that organization. Maybe mention some of the key departures, like, is DJ Fonte playing again? Is Andre Thompson coming back? And then maybe mention some of the kids that you expect to take a step forward this season and really perform in prime time.
Yeah, for sure. Question mark surrounding Mr. Fonte right now. I know he has committed to play at the Atlanta Beefeaters. But I have seen him around the town, so not committed currently. But there is a stable of quarterbacks behind him. Guys like Aiden Sweeney, who we've seen in the past too, who are definitely able to step up, and a few other kids in the city. So I think watch out at the running back level. Cam Bordeaux, who was in the mix last year, Javon Roberts, who was most certainly injured for most of the season last year, but then showed up and was just the best change of pace running back we had. Obviously Kanye Nethersole, moving on, he's playing in Guelph. And then Ian LaLiberty, who was just dynamic at the receiver position last year, should be back too, as well as Drake Logan coming off an injury from high school. So I think there's definitely some threats from last year that'll be, in that year 3 position, or I guess Bordeaux being year 2. And then on defense, a couple guys moving up too, like Liam Haggerty's still in the mix at linebacker. Nathan Cantor is coming up from the U16 team, who actually just had a really good showing at the CFC thing yesterday as well too. And then big bad Andre Thompson could play.
Wow. Okay.
So definitely an option there. So if we've got Gower, Thompson, and Jollymore available on the D line, then you better have an O line that's ready to go. And speaking of that too, I think all but our center is back at O line this year too, which is very exciting. And they, you want to talk about giving DJ all the time in the world to do things last year. Hats off to our offensive line.
Paved the way.
So I think a couple decent pieces on each side of the ball. And we'll just see how it all falls together once we start getting them back out on the full field. So exciting, and there's one other guy on defense, Tykins there, who did get defensive MVP last year, and question marks surrounding Mr. Zaire at the moment. Maybe a Woodstock Wolverine, maybe a London Jr Mustang. We don't know, but conversations are happening, which again, there's some exciting stuff happening in Woodstock. Maybe we have another call on that at some point.
For sure. Yeah. So, we'll break down that U18 AA division, which Woodstock will be participating in. But some great info there, Adam. Speaking on Andre Thompson, if he does come back, he was probably my favorite player to watch at the varsity level last year. Watching him take Wildcat quarterback snaps, like I said, I think I mentioned on the other call with you last season, was just surreal, wild to see. As a former trench player myself, getting to see that, I'm like, why didn't I get used like that? And you're like, well, you're not nearly as athletic. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But one more last question: is your boy playing again this season, or has he aged out?
No, he's a possible. Unfortunately, with Cam right now, we're getting a few things checked out. He had a couple concussions in high school, so we're just dealing with that accordingly, and then we're going to make a call on what the summer season looks like. So, um, yeah, unfortunate, but obviously we're gonna err on the side of caution
For sure.
there for sure. But you're right. Back on the Thompson thing, I had to coach against him at high school. So it's much. Andre Thompson is a guy you want to coach, not coach against. But it does make you better as a coach, I think, to help prepare kids for the magic that they're going to have to go against, right? Not to pump his
Absolutely.
tires too much, but Dre's special for sure,
For sure.
for sure.
Yeah. So I think we did a great job of touching on the Mustangs' remarkable season, and we always know that they're going to be a candidate to win it year in and year out, and let's see if they could be the first OSFL club at this West Division level to repeat as champions. That's going to be the goal. I'm sure that's internally what you guys are talking about. Incredible season, and moving on now, Adam, to a team that does not want to see the London Junior Mustangs repeat.
Right.
And if there's any team that would, it's this team right here, the Essex Ravens, who finished with a regular season record of 6-2 last season, beating the London Junior Mustangs in the regular season. London gets its avenge there later in the playoffs. You mentioned it a little bit there, Adam, but obviously you guys, this is probably the best rivalry in all of the OSFL, and it's done in good spirit. I've seen the communication back and forth. It's all in good spirit, but man, when you guys get on that gridiron, it is, it's a physical game. Like, it's 4 quarters of bumps and bruises and high quality coaching and adjustments against one another. What can you say about this Essex Ravens team from last season, going 1-1, and that's normally the case with you guys. You normally go back and forth. What do you see from them in 2025?
Yeah, and I need to get a copy of the schedule actually because I've been prepping for the broadcast as well too. But it's always, I mean, it's a fight. Doesn't matter. The joke is doesn't matter if it's two old ladies from London and Windsor playing bridge. There's going to be a scrap, and
That's right.
and that comes up. My good buddy Ronnie for Word on the broadcast says it all the time because it's true. It's always a blast going down there, and I think because we are away to them, we'll probably have a home game against them this year. But it's always exciting, and it is. It just reminds me, like I feel like it's the 1995, and I got a helmet on, and when we're playing Windsor, it's old school, just hard nosed football. You know exactly what you're gonna get, and you know exactly whose voice you're gonna hear just hollering across the field the entire time. And Glenn is just. I love the guy. I have a mutual respect for him as a coach, and we're good friends at this point too. And I think you don't ever want to go to Windsor University to play those guys, right? And it was 13-10, and
Yep.
it was a close one, and that's what you get, right? Yeah, I think. And you have to prepare for a close game. And anytime we're going into Windsor, it's like, okay, let's give them a 1-score game, guaranteed. So yeah, it definitely a hard-nosed team. And like we said, I alluded to earlier in this call too. You know what you're going to get. It's a very similar program all the time. They seem to always get this magical mobile quarterback, every
Right.
single year. And you're going to see draw like 100 times in a game because it's always there, right? And it's, yeah, prepping for those guys is always just like, okay, well, how quick's the quarterback and who can we put a spy on him or whatever that looks like. And you're going to get it. And, how Glenn finds that guy every year, I'd love to know.
Right. Yeah.
It's, no, it's good. And I think, they're poised. I think they had a lot of young last year too. I think part of the challenge they had later in the season was just a lot of their older guys were injured, and they were calling up the depth, which means you've got depth kids from last year who will probably be starters this year at the Windsor team, which puts them in position to be they've got kids who'll be game ready to play at this level for sure.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned it there. Like, the rivalry is uncanny. It's an amazing football to watch. Just to answer your question, though, Week 5 in London, June 14th, Essex travels to London, which I'm sure. Make sure you subscribe to London Football TV. I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, Adam, but I'm sure that game will be streamed or at least filmed, right? I
yeah,
mean,
That'll
Yeah.
be yeah, good point too. We'll do two major broadcasts, I think, this season as well, like we did last year. We'll just pick two of the bigger rivalry games. And my plan right now is for all the home games that we don't do full broadcasts. I'm just going to do basic broadcasts as well. Probably pull in the PA announcer so that people will still be able to watch it remotely. And then I did a lot of on the road games last year too. I think when we were in Burlington, we did like a basic cast for the parents that couldn't make it. So um, stay tuned, but that's probably what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't want to confirm anything, but make sure
Yeah,
you go over there.
when we have three D line coaches, I don't need to be on the sideline, and that's a big part of the reason that we have three as well too.
Well,
So
we appreciate that too because we get to see the awesome coverage that London Football TV has of these games, and that's a game that you're not going to want to miss. So make sure you
yeah,
go over there and subscribe to that. Can't wait for that later in the summer. But a little bit more on this Essex team, little into the nitty gritty here. You mentioned quarterback position. Glenn wanted to highlight new quarterback Nolan Bryans, who I'm sure you're going to have the pleasure of seeing all those QB draws and him running around the pocket and trying to extend plays. But a couple interesting things on the Ravens specifically that I wanted to mention. This was their first time in 3 years that they weren't actually in the provincial championship game. They beat London back in 2022, and then they lost to Hamilton in 2023. This is the first year, and they lost to London in the semifinals, so they were right there losing to the eventual champions. So you know Glenn's going to want to get on his guys and be like, we need to get back to that U18 provincial championship game. But another thing I wanted to mention, they've actually lost 3 straight to the Hamilton Jr Ticats, losing to them last year and the year before, twice in the championship and the regular season. So they got some bad. They're coming off some big losses against some of their biggest rivals in the Jr Mustangs and the Hamilton Jr Ticats. So Adam, do you think that adds any extra motivation to Glenn and his staff? I know he's already a passionate guy and wants to get it done.
yeah.
But does that add anything more, losing to these teams that you have such a big rivalry with?
Yeah, nobody likes losing ever, but especially when it's a rival game, that it's a tough one. But I know I'm assuming he'll have like Havenga back, and guys like Rakowska should be back in the mix too.
Rakowska's back.
So
Yep, both of those
yeah,
guys. Yep.
and I think it, Hamilton's a tough gig. Assuming we're talking about them next too, right?
Yep.
But like Hamilton is, um, yeah, like it's another game where it's going to be a different. It's usually faster. It's not as physical. It's a faster game when you play Hamilton. Is
They're
what I've
quick.
found.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's and a lot of times just due to the size of the players, right? You go with what you got, kind of thing. But yeah, that's what I always notice is like when we play Essex, it's a drawn out.
Yeah.
Just dive and it's but then man, you go to Hamilton, especially if you're playing at Mac. It's just a faster game. It's always the hottest game of the year too. We either get super hot or like crazy rain at McMaster,
Right.
and nothing in between. But it's been yeah, we had a lightning delay one time for like 45 minutes a couple seasons ago there. But yeah, I think Glenn's going to show up with some dogs per usual, and then I think on the Hamilton side of things, I think we'll it's always being prepared for deep balls and speed
Yeah.
when you're playing Hamilton.
Yeah, what I like to say whenever, especially with the Essex London thing, is it's basically just a fight in a phone booth. The trench play is on display, and as a former trench player, that's amazing to me getting to watch. That's some of the most entertaining football I get to watch whenever London's great D line is going against Essex's great O line and vice versa, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
there is some contrast in styles, but as football fanatics that me and you are, Adam, we appreciate it all, whether it's high flying offense or a physical 13-10 game, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so I think we'll get that from Essex again this year. As you mentioned, watch out for Kevin Rakowska, Liam Havinga at receiver, and then Glenn also mentioned Connor Thompson, who will be their lead tailback this season, as well as a couple of big old linemen, including Lucas Brown. So that Essex is going to have a ton of talent year in and year out, and it's really going to come down to, I think, these 3 matchups. And I think this is the perfect segue to jump over to Hamilton. And what a 2-year stretch for Hamilton. They finished with a 7-1 regular season record this past season, only losing to London in that last game for the first place spot in the West. So obviously They ended up losing in the semifinals to the Durham Dolphins in an absolute shootout. I guess that was a incredible game there. So they just narrowly missed back-to-back provincial championship appearances as well. So Adam, obviously, Essex and London, you guys have been the top dogs for a while, but Hamilton has really come on in the last couple of years to really show that, hey, this is a three-headed race, especially the last 3 seasons. What have you seen from them?
Yeah, great coaching. Really, really, really good coaching from this group. Again, nice connection to the university there too. I know there's a lot of student and player guys that are there, and they're trying to graduate them up. And I think there's a reason when you look at like the Team Ontario teams and that why they're usually so full of kids from Hamilton and Burlington and surrounding area too is they've got eyes on them. They're much closer to them, but it's that core coaching group there too. Comes out of Hamilton, and you can just tell. I always get an air for a team when you're there and you're on the sidelines and you're watching warm-ups and then you're watching the comportment on the sidelines and things like that. And Hamilton are class acts, from when they hit the field to when the game is over. And that's what you get out of Hamilton is a real professional attitude from end to end. And I think that's really translating. It also translates that you can't run football that fast, and plays that fast if you're not just drilling the snot out of them. And I think they've done a really good job there, and that's what I've seen over the last 4 years at U16 and U18 playing against them that's the style you get there. So it's kind of nice, if we're all drinking the same Kool-Aid and that transfers up through the two programs or, 16 and 18, you've got a winning attitude. And I think that's why they've been very successful. Like they went on a run there for a while where they went undefeated.
Yeah, I was just about to say, one of the things in my notes here, Adam, they won 18 straight games dating back to 2023 before losing to London last season and ended up losing 2 out of their last 3. So 18 straight games. Like they're a catalyst at this division and throughout Ontario, like in recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, like, we played them at home, and I think they expected that game to be a little closer. But we were rolling so hard
You
at
guys
that
were
end
on
of the season. It
fire,
was,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, coming off and a couple of lighter games too against Kingston and Oakville going into that one too. So those 2 games give us a chance to have our depth, ready to go to play them too. So it was good. But no, I mean, still, even in that, like, you had a good chat with a bunch of the coaches after that game, and they were shocked just because they'd had so much success leading up to that point. But regardless, still, real professional on the sidelines and did what they had to do, right? I did catch a bit of the post game speech there, and the guy said, "Listen, like we were prepped for this game. It just
Didn't happen.
there's the
Well,
scoreboard, right? Yeah, like
I
it's one
think
of them days."
it makes it even more memorable what London did. Like your run, especially after losing that game to Essex, you see some of the scores there, and you see like how well that London honed in. I don't think that's a knock on Hamilton or Essex losing in the semifinals. I think it was just London's year, and you guys had a plethora of talent. You gelled at the right time. I mean, this is a Hamilton team. They win the provincial championship in 2023, and then their only 2 losses in 2024 are to the 2 provincial championship representatives in London and Durham. So I mean, overall, I'd say a successful season. That Durham game is probably one that they want to get back and make it and get the rematch against London. But it obviously didn't happen. But obviously, bright things on the horizon for Hamilton. Do you have any notes of players there? We didn't get to talk to any of the coaches there. So is there anybody that no?
Unfortunately, I was looking at all the stats from last year, and most of the names I had on there I know were guys who are aged out. So
They're gone.
would love to. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get some names here soon when the season kicks off for sure. But
whatever the case may be, even their U16 program is very good, very talented. I'm sure Hamilton's going to be just fine, and I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to get back to that provincial championship game and the glory that they had in 2023. So watch out for Hamilton. Watch out for the big 3, as always, as we move down the line here to a team that you mentioned a little bit earlier, Adam, a team that has been trying to get over the hump for the last few years in the Cambridge Lions. And, this is a team that, a great stat here. Cambridge is 1-6 versus Hamilton, London, and Essex in the past 2 seasons at this age group in this division. 10-2 versus everybody else. So that really goes to show you, whenever you're battling with these dynasties that Hamilton, London, and Essex has had, it's not easy to get over that hump and beat those teams. But we've seen it from Cambridge, 10-2 against the rest of the league. So they're a very dynamic team, very well coached. Obviously, I said 4-4 record last season, but you touched on them a little bit, Adam. What do you see out of Cambridge, and how do you see them maybe trying to get over the hump here in 2025?
Yeah, I think, my overall view on Cambridge that, that I've seen only having, because they're, equally only an hour away here from London. We've played them a heck of a lot too, is there used to be a real commonality across all the teams, right? And there was just, I talked earlier about, drinking from the same Kool-Aid or singing from the same sheet. I don't see that at the different age groups in Cambridge now. And at the U18, and I think that's part of the challenge where it didn't matter if it was U8 or U18, it felt like the same vibe when you went to the Jack, in Cambridge. And I find that now there just seems to be a different vibe at those teams, right? And obviously that's just head coaches needing to get together. Like nothing personal. I just don't get that Cambridge Lions mentality across the board anymore when you go there. Still a great team. They're still playing real hard. I just don't think I think there's too much maybe lost in translation between the U16 level and the U18 level is what I've seen from the last couple of years. And I think that's just completely different coaching styles maybe at the two teams, which isn't a terrible thing for the kids. You're going to go play somewhere else once upon a, down the road, and you need to learn a new system. But I just haven't seen that same sort of mentality. I know Stephen Paul was the guy who ran the thing for a good long time, and I just don't think maybe it's a leadership thing. And again, nothing personal on the Cambridge guys. That's what I feel from that club is that there's usually talent there. It's just not translating very well on the field. So
Yeah, go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
I was going to say, hopefully that changes up for them in 25,
Yeah.
for sure. Because obviously it's working against the teams below the top three. So it's just how do we tighten up the screws so that we can take on one of these, top three teams from last year and see some success.
Yeah, Cambridge isn't alone in that either. The entire U18 division as a whole is chasing the top three in Hamilton, London, and Essex. Nobody's won the championship other than those three teams the past 3 seasons. So it's not like Cambridge is out here losing to other teams that maybe they think they shouldn't. And they're playing in tough games, especially maybe not so much last season, but the year before. Really tough games against Essex and London and Hamilton. So a very talented group. I have, as you mentioned, they bring back a few All-Stars, including Caleb DaCosta on the defensive line, offensive tackle Jordan Lacroix, and linebacker Nathan Laskowski, who was one of my favorites to watch last season. And an interesting tidbit on them, they add one of the best kickers from U16. They had one of the best kickers at that division, Adam, Dimitri Grebe, who was crushing field goals. They actually played in one of the championship games at Waterloo. He was crushing field goals from a long way out. So valuable asset to have there at kicker. And very interesting thing here, Adam, they add the provincial championship winning quarterback from U16 from the Burlington Stampeders, Hayden Busick, moves over to go play U18 at Cambridge. So I'm not sure if he wasn't guaranteed the role with Burlington or something, but he makes the jump over to go play Cambridge. So maybe circle that game on your schedule if Busick gets to start for Cambridge.
That's an interesting one. Maybe I don't know if they moved or they're taking the drive to Cambridge. That's an interesting change up for sure. So
yeah. Circle that game.
Yeah, I'm just making notes on that one right now, right?
a good quote from head coach Christian Curiata. Thankfully, we get to see a lot of their coverage throughout the season because 519 Sports Online is partnered with Cambridge. We see a lot of his speeches and stuff. Seems like a very passionate head coach. And he says their motto this season is treat every day like it's 3rd and 1. Aim to live and treat every day with the focus and intensity that a 3rd and 1 situation requires. So seems like they're gearing up to go here, Adam. Maybe put them on an upset list where teams, maybe taking them lightly, maybe thinking that it's not their time. But like I said, I think Cambridge has been one of the better organizations at this age group specifically for the past 3 years. It's just been tough to contend with London, Essex, and Hamilton. I think that's just the reality of it.
Absolutely, and for the longest time you had kids like Marco Piccioni playing there, who the linebacker play at Cambridge is always stellar.
Yeah.
And Marco was no slouch, right? And now, I mean, that guy's making moves in Windsor right now, and it's been exciting to watch him. I know his dad, Frank, really well too, coached against him. So I think, yeah, you never want to take those guys lightly. And I just said the Jack, it's the Jake. I know it's the,
The
Jacob
Jacob
Hespeler.
Hespeler, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just, I had to like fix that for my Cambridge friends here. It's beautiful field. Wish we had,
Yes.
I wish there was nicer ones. Great little stands and nice little press box too. And you're right, the guys at 519 Sports, same thing. Thanks for the shout out, telling people to go subscribe to me. If you're not already, please go follow 519 Sports. Those guys are everywhere. I don't know how they cover the amount of sports they do. I know Darren's got a huge crew of guys, but it's a lot. Yeah, and they're getting through hockey right now, and then they'll be back to do football here like sooner than later too. So that's pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said it there too. Don't take Cambridge lightly. You're going to get a good solid game out of them, and I'm hoping that this is their year. That they're able to really dial it in, and obviously maybe this new quarterback is what they need. So we will see.
We talked about championship pedigree. I just thought that was a really cool tidbit of information because he won the U16 back-to-back U16 provincial championships with Burlington, and then we're going to see him in a Cambridge Lions uniform. So circle that game on your schedule. Best of luck to Cambridge. Like I said, they're tough out every year, and they're going to be tough to contend with. And then let's move over to the Burlington Stampeders, who Busick decides not to go to. But we mentioned at the top, we talked about a little bit about them. But I mean, they are getting a plethora of talent from this U16 back-to-back provincial championship winning team. And themselves, I mean, they finished with a 4-4 record last year. I believe they were somewhere in the neighborhood of 5-3 the year before. And this past season, they win the Tier 2 U18 provincial title, which London got the experience of winning that the year before. That's obviously still something that's a big accolade to win that championship. Obviously, you want to contend for the provincial championship, but no slouch at this U18 program at all. What have you seen out of them, Adam? I know that you said, obviously, U14, U16, they've been really good for the past 3 seasons. This might be the year that we see Burlington jump into that top 3 mix at the U18 AAA division.
Yeah, and with Burlington, I was blown away at the physical size of their O and D lines last year. And then at the receiver and DB's position, just long players. Like, so I think you know, you got the trenches figured out, you got the size, and I think this is again kind of why I think they could make a good run here. You're bringing up more kids from U16, and yeah, there was a few guys going out to play like O line last year and D line that I'm like, that kid's twice my size, like, and he's 17 or 18, and it's amazing. So hopefully they were able to retain a bunch of that beef and bulk for the lines. And if they've got this new quarterback coming in with with the pedigree of a champion, that whether he starts or not, obviously I'm assuming if he's going to be a first year, there should be somebody else at the 17-year-old or 18-year-old level. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But again, quick football and trench war is Burlington's sort of MO here, and playing there at their in their barn too. They've got a great facility as well, and just a really good vibe. And like, man, do the locals and parents come out to cheer them on? It's loud at those Burlington games, which is great, and we should see more of that, for OSFL football everywhere.
For sure, it's some of the best football you can watch in the province. That's not professional. I believe it's the best football you can watch, other than professional football. But yeah, no, Burlington returns a few U18 provincial all stars from the OSFL. Nick Honchar at running back, Caleb Daw in the secondary, and defensive lineman Vincent Akabu. But I really wanted to touch on Isaiah Petrick Orr, who I'm sure you might be a little bit familiar with, but he was their standout do-it-all tailback from that U16 provincial championship winning team. Obviously, their offensive line had a lot to do with that and how they were able to create holes and give him the protection that he needed. But this is a dynamic playmaker that maybe Burlington has been missing in their backfield because, like you said, it's been trench war with these teams and they haven't been able to come on top of a lot of those games. But adding a dynamic playmaker, I'm not sure how involved he'll be being a first-year varsity player, but adding that kind of talent and that kind of speed into the lineup, I can speak from experience watching him against Cumberland the last 2 years in the provincial championships. He was a difference maker. He threw a 70-yard touchdown on a pitch play. He ran for 3 or 4 more. It's going to be really interesting to see if Burlington can stack up talent wise on the offensive side with the Essex and the Londons and the.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like they're putting all the right pieces in place. So it's again, I'm pumped, man. Can the season start today? Right? Like, just going
I
through
know,
this,
yeah,
it's looking great.
it's incredible. And we got a chance to get a quote from head coach Pete Wilson, who's done a great job over there and trying to get them over the hump, concentrating on mental focus and discipline of team concepts and mental preparation of the upcoming season, building strength and stamina to withstand the rigors of the season and help build injury resilience. So if you don't believe that the West is a gauntlet and a bumps and bruises kind of game in and game out, just go ask the head coach of Burlington, Pete Wilson, who says one of their key is injury resilience and making sure that they're ready to go week in and week out, because you're leaving each of these games and you're like, wow, we got to play another one of these next week. I mean, it's crazy, but there's the words from head coach Pete Wilson, and this should be a
Nice.
really good team this season.
Yeah, Pete's a great guy, and yeah, keep the ice handy, because it's heck hella necessary in this summer ball, man.
Well, especially at this division.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on, Adam, to the Niagara Spears, who similarly to some of the storied franchises we've already talked about, London had a really good run, I'd say, in the 2010s of being one of the catalysts at this age group. I know they played Myers a couple of times, I believe, in the provincial championship back then. Really a storied team, and I believe their head coach Brian Duguay has been there forever, head coaching that team. What have you seen out of Niagara? Obviously, you must have some good stories going against them, but they finished with a 2-6 record last year. How did they kind of return to their dominance of maybe the early 2010s teams?
Yeah, the early 2010s, like these were barn burners of games, man. Like it was one of those, like we were prepping for Niagara like we did Essex. And you knew there was going to be a physical game. And it was like, don't make sure that the second string guy's ready. Make sure the third string's ready, because you just never know at any position. So would love to see that. I haven't seen that sort of, obviously we still prepped for them regardless, but it just I can remember once upon a time, like those games were a heck of a lot rougher than they had been. So would I love to see a return to that? Yeah, absolutely. At every camp. Uh, yeah, I think last year with Niagara, just kind of reflecting on our game, it was our first game of the season as well too. And it was one of those like 28-0. I think the score was higher than that. I think they just weren't ready for it. They weren't ready. You could tell like they just needed a few more weeks of camp. So and then we really didn't see them for the rest of the season. So unfortunately, not a whole lot of anecdotes or anything for those guys, but hoping that having had that winning mentality and history, that they can find a way to find that gear again and bring it this spring summer.
Yeah, and it's the same head coach who led those teams into those battles and those prominent years of Spears football and head coach Brian Duguay. And I think to return to relevance again at those top levels, I think it's there in Niagara. I think they always have, I'd say the size, right? Like I think they can compete well with the league's best. It's just about getting the right people in place and probably a couple more standout players. But one of the guys I wanted to mention, Austin McCray, who I believe will be their starting quarterback this year. He was phenomenal a couple of years ago at the U16 level, I believe winning offensive MVP in one of those championship games. So maybe another player to watch out there from Niagara. But, just another team like Niagara probably gets overlooked the last few seasons, and maybe deservedly so with some of these other West teams. But they were one of the best teams in the province just 10 years ago. So like it just goes to show you how much of a gauntlet this West is, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you never know with Niagara. Like Niagara could come out of the woodworks and they could have another great season. So
Yeah.
it's really up in the air. There's a lot of good teams.
Well, and you never know who's showing up. Every once in a while, there's just these diamonds in the rough. Show up. A couple like last year for us, this kid named Javon Chase showed up, who was Andre Thompson's right hand man, right, and then got picked up and went down to Connecticut. So you just don't know who's going to show up, because you've got those core guys coming in, but then every once in a while you get a kid who transfers, you get another
Right.
local that shows up, or somebody who maybe had a great high school season. And I think if I'm in a position, as a Niagara Spears coach or there's a few more coach. I was going to say Cambridge, but there's not as many high schools in the area. But if I'm in an area where there's a lot of high schools, I'm recruiting as much as possible to try and make sure we can guarantee we've got holes filled at some of these spots, and I get it and coach the rest of it up. So yeah, hopefully we see something out of Niagara this season, and um, I love low-scoring defensive games personally as a defensive coach, right?
Me
But
too.
it would be nice to see something change up there. Obviously, 2-6 last year. We can always do better for sure.
For
So
sure. Yeah.
best of luck to the Spears this season.
Yeah, and they played in a championship game last year too, losing to Burlington in Waterloo, and that was a pretty good game as well. So they have a proven track record. I'm excited to see what happens with Niagara. Some of the cleaner color schemes I find in the entire OSFL, I like it. They kind of remind me of the Florida State Seminoles a little bit. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out there. But moving on to Oakville, which is one of the, I'd say, newer teams in this division, Adam, other than the last team that we're going to talk about, which will be a fun exercise. But the Oakville Titans, they finished with a 1-7 record last season. They surprised some people the year before by beating Cumberland in Week 1. I remember that being a big upset. But, Oakville has turned into a pretty good AAA center as well here in the West. Obviously, 1-7 record, not something they want to continue, but like we mentioned, there's a lot of tough teams that you got to play here. What have you seen out of Oakville, Adam? I believe they're one of the newer teams. Maybe you can update us there a little bit, but
Yeah.
what have you seen from them?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, and the guy's name is escaping me, but they got a hype reel guy who works with them that even if they lose, man, his content looks fantastic, and it looks like they won
Yes,
every
yes.
single game. And I apologize, I wish I had that guy's name. Maybe you could tag it post. But I think same thing there. Newer team, looks like great equipment, well funded, good coaching staff. I think just newer in the mix, so just need to figure out sort of what that mentality looks like for the Titans. Obviously they were our double last year, so we had an away and a home game against them, and certainly they were able to put more points up in our second matchup. So as the season went on, they were able to really start building out their systems, and I thought they did well. Nice facility that they play out of as well. And I'm looking forward to see obviously 1-7 last year for them, but tons of talent on the team. It just seemed like they just weren't gelling. Even late in the season, it wasn't there. And sometimes with the groups of kids, it's tough. Like there's some years where man, everybody's just eating off the same plate, and then other times I've personally coached on teams that you get a little too cliquey with the players, and you just need them to all dial it in and become Titans and not be different separate groups. And I think that would be my take. And apologize if I'm wrong, guys. I wasn't on your sideline, but that's what I was getting, is that it wasn't a cohesive unit from when I saw them play. But hopefully, again, newer team. Let's work out the kinks. Let's make it better, and continue to grow the program, because heck, I'd love to see 12 teams here in the West if we could make it work, right? But
Yeah.
so we don't have to play people twice, at least one more. Anyway, so
Well, there's no double games this year, Adam. 7-game schedule. You play
correct.
every team in the division, so that'll be a good send off kind of rallying, because I know last year, for an example, Durham and Kingston didn't play. And those were the top 2 teams out of the East, which is like, that should never happen. So I think it's good to see that you're going to play your division games once, and then get those crossover games in the playoffs and kind of the bragging rights, because last season was the first time we actually seen an East and a West team in the finals in the OSFL era. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it was very exciting.
Yeah, it was awesome to see. But yeah, no, I echo you the same sentiment there. Good luck to Oakville. I think if they can start making some strides as well. They actually had 2 huge wins in 2023 over Cumberland and Burlington, and they were really on a good track there. Almost made the top 4 to make the West playoffs. So let's see if they can return to that kind of form in 2025. I know they have some good coaches down there as well. So good luck to the Titans. And then we'll move on to our last team here, Adam, and then maybe get into some predictions. The Waterloo Jr Warriors are going to make the jump, and this has been a big talk of the town lately. The Jr Warriors making the jump from AA to AAA.
3 years ago, we sat down as a board of directors for Waterloo Region Minor Football. We put together a plan. We had a competition committee. Our competition committee set a goal of getting to AAA by 2025. I'm proud to officially announce today that Waterloo Jr Warriors will be AAA for U14, U16, and U18. I want to make a special thank you for everyone that worked in doing that. All the coaches that are here, all the board members that are here, all the volunteers, all the managers, every single one of you, including the players, helped make this happen. We didn't get this opportunity without reaching our goals of being competitive and being top tier team in AA. If you look down in front of me, this is 3 years. All these trophies are in the last 3 years, guys. That's on you guys for making that happen. Thank you. Now, with that said, I'm sure everybody wants to know who we're going to be playing. So, as of the vote last week with OSFL, these are our tiers. We're in the Western Conference. So, we will play Essex, London Jr Mustangs, Cambridge, Hamilton, Burlington, Oakville, and Niagara. I know we're ready for them, but I'm not quite sure that they're ready for us.
Obviously, they have the facilities and the university support as well to pair with some of these gauntlets in the West. But Adam, what are your thoughts on Waterloo making this jump? It's obviously going to be a feeling out process. Some of these teams have been established AAA centers for a long time. But, you know, Waterloo hosted us with such class last season. Amazing facility. They did it the complete right way. They're bringing us up pizza every couple of hours, and it was amazing to see. But on the gridiron, Adam, how do you think the transition process will go for the junior?
I'm excited, you know, when I saw that happening, and I think what's really cool about it is, sure, you went 6-2 last year in the AA program, had a great season, and yeah, like you said, facilities, coaching, all the right ingredients are there. And if now what we can do is say, hey guys, we're going to that next level, right? We're playing AA right now. You know, we're doing well, but do we stay here and sort of just, you know, keep the status quo, or can we, as a group, challenge ourselves to go to that next tier? And knowing full well we might go 0-7, but you know, I really doubt it, right? And I think. You know, I know the support they're going to be getting from the Waterloo coaches as well. You know, K-Max there used to be a Western guy, Coach Conway, you know, like the whole group of them at Waterloo. I can only assume the support that they'll be getting from, you know, the coaches at Waterloo and the players as well, too. I know a lot of guys that, you know, I coached at Lucas High School that are Waterloo Warriors now at the university level. So I think could be a really interesting story. Obviously, I'm going to follow all of it, but I'm going to keep a close eye on how well these Waterloo guys do, because I think they're poised and have the right positioning to do well at the AAA level. And they're in kind of this interesting area, you know, the Cambridge, Waterloo. Like, there's a lot of players that can play at either spot.
Yeah.
So it could be interesting to see, you know, will there be any moves from kids that were maybe playing AAA Lions,
yeah,
to go to Waterloo, and vice versa, really. So yeah, could I mean, mind you, if you're in Waterloo, want to play AAA, you'd be playing Cambridge anyways. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see if there's any people moving back as they live in Waterloo and want to, you know, play there. So yeah, could be who knows? These guys could be the upset depending on who's going to play, right? So I think yeah, but good on them for making the move, right?
Oh,
I think
for sure.
it's you know, I know some kids that'll go and play AA ball because they just want to play football for the summer and don't want that, you know, hyper competitiveness all the time, right? But if I think you need buy-in from a whole club. Listen, we're doing this, man. Like, and if everybody bought in and they did that last year, then Beautiful, man. Like, let's spend the next, 6 months getting prepped for this and then go for it. So exciting things for the Waterloo Junior Warriors for sure.
Yeah,
I like their jerseys a lot,
me too.
actually.
Me
So
too.
yeah.
Me too. That's actually this is one of my favorite stories of the entire offseason. Seeing them make the jump, everything was in place there, 100% off the field and on the field. I mean, last season alone, what you look at what Laurier did, and I know that they're probably more affiliated, obviously, with Waterloo University, but Laurier right in their backyard as well. They had a fantastic season in the OUA, and then not their U18, but their U14 and U16 centers both won the AA championship. And you mentioned their U18 team went 6-2, so they're no slouch either. They've had a couple of good seasons in a row. So I think it was time probably for them to make that jump. And I mentioned before, but first class organization as far as how they treat you and how they handle their business and put their players in a position to succeed. I wouldn't be shocked if this Waterloo team, maybe not necessarily at this age group, but in the U14 and U16 age group, I wouldn't be shocked if they're contending for a title. I think U18 is going to be a little bit difficult for them, just as far as some of these beasts that they got to handle and some of these returning players, and we've seen the gauntlet it's been. But I think it'll be a quick transition process. I got a soft spot for them. Like I said, they treated us like royalty down there.
Yeah.
And they're just a first class organization. So I think being a part of this West, and it's a tough draw, right? Whenever you say, hey, I'm moving up to AAA, and these U18 players might be thinking that they're playing the likes of these AA centers, and then they look at their schedule. They got Essex week 1, London week 3, Hamilton week 4. It'll be fun for them, I think. I think it'll be a fun season. I don't envision them going winless. We'll get to our predictions a little bit later, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what I got on Waterloo. I think it's going to be exciting. One of my favorite stories of the offseason.
Absolutely. And I think, when they transition from Predators to the Junior Warriors, I mean, do you go AAA right away and maybe have a couple of seasons where you're just getting beat up? And, you need to build that mentality and that championship culture, or that winning culture before you to move up, right? And I think this is the right move. And I'm already looking forward to our postseason follow up next year to talk about where we got it right and where we got it wrong, right? So,
Right.
but I think this will be a really cool story to follow for sure for the next.
I'm with you, Adam, and I think that pretty much wraps up our team by team breakdowns here. Let us know if there's any players that we missed in the comments below, and what you think of these teams. But Adam, if you're cool with it, I kind of wanted to go through a prediction here, maybe just a regular season prediction, but I kind of wanted to format this to where you go with the number 1 team, I go with the number 2 team, so on and so forth. If you're comfortable, because I know you're a coach on the London staff.
You're right. It's Darren got me right before the broadcast too for the game. He's like, predictions for the game, and I'm like, oh, like I don't even like to talk score until after the game, right? Like the scoreboard doesn't matter, but okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Purple Rain, number 1. I'll give
Purple
it to
Rain,
you.
number 1.
Yeah. Completely biased, answer, but no, I think I'm looking at it with the returning players, everything we got going on right now. I'm prove me wrong, but I think London poised very well for first place in the West again.
Listen, shocking headlines on this show. Coach Adam Melrose picks London to finish first. That's obviously why I had you go first. If I was in your position, as someone non-biased at all, and Adam said it, obviously he's going to pick London, but I would piggyback off of that. I think London last season was some of the best football down the stretch that I've seen at this age group in quite some time. So it's a matter of who's going to knock them off the crown if somebody comes for it. One of the best centers, some of the best returning players, the established culture. It's going to be tough to beat. They're going to be tough to beat every single season. So people can't come at you too hard for being a London coach and saying you're going to be finished first.
That's true. I say to the players all the time, you could be cocky as long as you back it up, right? So it's anyway, it's so yeah, bring it on in 25, boys.
Perfect.
But I want that though. Like with this,
Yeah.
This should be the attitude of every single club, right? No, we're winning this thing, right? Not we're gonna have a season. No, we're going out there and we're getting it. So anyway, I digress.
Okay.
The number 2 spot, Mr. Devin.
Yes. Well, before we move on, I want you to. What's the record in the 7-game regular season? What's London's record finishing first here?
6-1.
6-1. Okay, I like that. Okay, so number 2, you can go a couple of ways here. I'm gonna go with the Essex Ravens. I think they got a bit of more of a chip on their shoulder this season than maybe in past seasons, to where they haven't had the success against Hamilton and London in the last couple of seasons that they probably wanted to have. I think Glenn's gonna get the troops going there. They got some great returning players. Maybe establish the culture a little bit more with those guys. I know they had a really good U16 program last season as well. And man, they're the Essex Ravens. Like same with the London Jr Mustangs, they're the Essex Ravens. Like they have an established winning culture. Like you said, Glenn always finds terrific athletes down there. He mentioned this new quarterback that he's really excited about. And you know what? I just think that they're going to come out firing. Look for them to finish or start like 3 or 4-0. I think they're really going to come out on fire, and then it's going to be kind of a guessing game to see who can make the right adjustments to beat them and beat each other, or whatever you might say. But give me the Essex Ravens. I'm going to also have them at 6-1. So I'll put them at number 2 here in that slot.
Okay. Third place. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious. I think Hamilton's the move, three-headed beast, monster, dragon, whatever you want to call it. I think, and for all the reasons we discussed already, and I would assume that would probably put them in a 5-2, record, losing to London and Essex, and
we'll
just
say that.
Steamrolling everybody else likely. So, maybe not steamrolling, but doing well against everybody else, right? So that'll be my number 3, Hamilton.
Love that. Okay, number 4 here. I'm going to go with the Burlington Stampeders. I think I think the U16 players making the jump up there. I think the established culture, where they've had a couple of good seasons at U18, but U16, man, I mean, a lot of those players are making the jump now. And some of the players that won 2 years ago that did their first season last year will be welcoming in the new crop of U16s. I think that they're just poised for success this year. I could also see them finishing 5-2-ish, but I will go with a 4-3 record just to be safe at that 4 spot, and that'll be my 4th team. So if our predictions play out, the top 4 teams in the West that make those playoff spot would be London, Hamilton, Essex, and the Burlington Stampeders. So that's my pick for that. I think you liked that, Adam, right? Maybe
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. And are we going the whole gamut here?
We'll do the whole thing. I just want to say, because the top 4 teams make that round 1 tier 1 playoff. So I wanted to say
I like it. I really like the pick. And I think we'll be, let's review at the end of Game 7. But I think we're probably going to be pretty close here.
I think so too.
Based purely on just the knowledge that we know today. So
we do what we work with, right? So
5th place is interesting, but I got to give it to my boys in Cambridge. I think, that's going to be, which would put them probably 3 and 4 or ish. And I think, it's just due to history. I think that's where we'll see the Lions.
I think so too, and I think that that middling where the team's battling for that number 4 spot, I think we could see some movement there. I do think Burlington might have an advantage, but Cambridge is returning a lot of all-stars, like as head coach Christian Curiata mentioned. They're returning some great talent. Do not sleep on Cambridge, as we mentioned. They could easily be in the top 4 or even top 3. It's just the nature of the business, Adam. These West teams are so good that one of the teams isn't going to make it. Right, and if Cambridge is the last one out, then so be it. But okay, so you got Cambridge Lions at number 5. I go back and forth here. Call it clickbaity or whatever, but I'm gonna put the Jr Warriors here at number 6.
I like it.
Do you like it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the Jr Warriors here at number 6. I just think that them making the jump, it just makes so much sense. I think they're going to have some success. Let's say that they beat Oakville and Niagara. Maybe give the Cambridges of the world a run for their money, the Burlingtons, a run for the money. I think they have a solid first year, maybe get 2 or 3 wins. We'll see. I think they have a great culture, like you said. They do have some really good players moving up from that U16 provincial championship winning team at AA. Yes, it'll be a feeling out process. Yes, they might get blown out once or twice in this West. Most teams will have seasons like that. It's just the nature of the beast. But give me the Jr Warriors. Let's say they finish 2-5 on this season.
I I like it. I like it. I gotta go Spears.
I'm
I
with
guess
you.
in the next spot here. It's um, again, no disrespect. It's just where we are in the standings here. I think the Spears will do better than Oakville. And I think that again, just based on their past and what they've been able to achieve in the past, I think that's only gonna, hey, um, what's it call it? Kendrick Lamar made flare jeans popular again, right? The Niagara Spears can circle back
Oh,
and get back to where they were once upon a time, right? So I think that's where I would put the Spears at 7, which I guess would put Oakville in 8.
yeah, we'll throw Oakville there at 8, and I think we're on pretty good agreement there, Adam, on our list there. I think we both agreed pretty, pretty standardly. But like I said, it's just the nature of it. I mean, there's 8 really good centers in this division. I'd say 3 or 4 that have a real established culture of, if they're not in the top 4, something went crazily wrong. There was a huge injury or just something out of the norm happened. So it'll be tough to contend in this division, but that's why we love covering it. That's why you have some of the best footage in all of Ontario covering these games, Adam. But one last prediction I want to get from you: who makes it out? Maybe you don't have to say the champion, but maybe give me who's gonna make it out of the West to represent the West in the provincial championship.
Where is that being played this year?
Kingston. So a nice
Little
easy
drive.
trek for the Eastern Ontario boys over here. Yeah.
It's a little bit of 4.5 hour drive for me. Is it
Well,
being played at Queens?
at Queens.
Oh, very cool. What a beautiful facility
Oh,
that
it's
is.
gonna be amazing.
And that'll be. What is there? A expected date of this right now?
Yes, July 26th. That weekend, July 26th. So everything's moved up because of the shorter schedule. So July 26th in Kingston is probably the next time I'll see you, buddy.
We'll
But
get a chance to actually enjoy August. That sounds great.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, so July 26th. If I had to put a prediction in right now, replay of last year's championship game.
Wow.
But yeah,
London Durham.
yeah. 'Cause
So
I
why
understand-
we already talked about the East, Adam. We had another guest on talking about the East, so hopefully you check that out. But why Durham? Maybe quickly touch on that.
So from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong out there in the comment sections or wherever, is that Castleman is a commit to Western. So they were trying to get him to play Jr Mustangs this summer, but he said, no, I want to go back to Durham and finish what I started. Right?
Really?
So
Oh, wow. Okay.
if I got that wrong, I got that wrong. But this is my sources. That's where I'm at. So I think the boy's going to want to run it back, right? So I think I would love to see nothing more than just a replay of last year's championship game. That's my prediction right here. What is it? February 18th, 1:14 p.m. I don't know when this is airing, but or if it's live. But that's my prediction, man. Hit me with yours.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I do think that London does make it back. I think it's just a matter of how they get there. But give me London Essex. What better way to cap off the season with a London Essex nail biter in Kingston? Both teams making the long trek out to Queen's University, and anticipate maybe a bloodbath there. But that would be my prediction. And just to play devil's advocate, give me the Essex Ravens to win the entire thing.
Ooh, I like it.
I have to throw that at you.
All right, wings after the game based on who gets it right, okay?
Let's go. Yeah, let's chalk it up. Let's confirm that now. All right, Adam. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. Make sure you go check out Adam and London Football TV. I'll put the links in the description to their Instagram and YouTube. Do you have any other social plats, Adam, or is it just the Instagram and the YouTube?
We dabble on TikTok a little bit, but Instagram
Okay.
and YouTube are basically where, I mean, everything's just a re-up on TikTok of stuff going to Instagram. So those are the two main areas right now where all the content is. But yeah, always great to work with the TYSN guys. Love it when our clips make the top lists as well too. It's a fight for me and Darren to capture the best content for you.
Right,
So
right.
it's good. But yeah, absolute pleasure being here, and looking forward to hey, if anybody wants to try and prove these predictions wrong, go for it. But let's have a hell of a season this season, and looking forward to some OSFL action for sure.
Love it, man. Well, thanks again, Adam. Make sure everybody go follow London Football TV. As I said, keep tabs on them. They're going to be posting tons of great content as we get closer to the OSFL summer season. Thank you, Adam, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for watching episode 2, the OSFL U18 AAA West, and we'll see you next time.